Check. Test, test, test. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Test. Okay, now it works. Okay, fantastic. All right, well then, okay, so I didn't say too much yet, but what I wanted to say is I wanted to talk about the idea of making red candles good, okay? So this is not something that should be that foreign of a concept, but what this really has to do is with the idea that DeFi allows us to take this technology like blockchain and crypto and kind of evolve it economically. And by evolve it economically, I mean be able to create, capture, and extract value in other ways than just buy, hodl, dump. Does that make sense to you guys? Because buy, hodl, dump is kind of like a primitive fucking way of doing anything, and that is also not going to be like the route of any sort of economic evolution or revolution. Does that make sense? That's literally just a bunch of people playing racquetball with each other on a price chart. Does that make sense? So the good news is that I know of the 16 people that are here today, every single one of you figured out a different way this could be done in DeFi. And one of those ways, and that way was boardroom prints. Correct? Did every single one of you figure out how boardroom prints work? Is anybody here still unaware of how boardroom printing works? Okay, well, I want you guys to understand that that is 100% true, and there's also additional ways to make money besides boardroom printing. Does that make sense? There's additional ways to make money with boardroom printing, and one of the ways to make that happen is if you can create a scenario, again, where a red candle is possibly good. Like not just buying the dip for the purpose of swing trading, but buying it because buying it at a lower price makes more sense. Buying it at a lower price has an additional benefit that buying at a higher price doesn't. Because if DeFi just keeps operating in that same like buy at the top until it crashes, and then whoever's left holding the bag is left holding the bag, and there's no real ecosystem behind that, you're not really going to evolve into anything new. You're not going to evolve into anything impressive. And one of the ways that PyroSwap attempts to evolve this and solve that problem about how to make red candles good is one of the ways that red candles can be good is that there is a red candles on things like the peg coin now can be more profitable to arbitrage when their prices dip below what was like 2 ohm, for example, dip below the meat coin, which is Pyre Phantom in this context. So for those of you who don't understand, if you have 102 ohm at TWAP 0.10 and Pyre Phantom is at 0.15, you can arbitrage. You can immediately for coins that are worth 50% more. You can then sell those coins for the very same coins you started with, and you will not only have more of them, but you will also have raised their price through price impact. Now, this right here causes a small green candle on 2 ohm and a red candle on Pyre Phantom, right? However, 2 ohms price needs to be lower than Pyre Phantoms to make this profitable. So what that means is what we're doing is we're creating a scenario where 2 ohm having a lower price, and by the way, you can only get to a lower price through red candles, right? 2 ohm having a lower price through red candles is now a good deal for somebody who can do something with it. Does that make sense? Now that I don't know if you guys will understand that immediately, but we have talked about this diagram that I think moved through the chats here and there. Here, let me see if I can find it. This one right here. This is the Xeon open beta instruction, and this applies for 2 ohm as well. Now, right there, this is applying to the knighthoods. This is applying to like the 2 ohm, 3 ohm Xeon knighthoods, and it's applying to all 3 of those coins in parallel. And as you guys can imagine, the existence of this utility being installed immediately creates a scenario where the previous red candles on 2 ohm, 3 ohm, Xeon are now a good thing. Because if 2 ohm, 3 ohm, and Xeon had not crashed in price, had not received those red candles, they would not have profitability in the scenario. Does that make sense? So if 2 ohms, if 2 ohms price is not below Pyre Phantoms, then Metatrage is unprofitable. I hope that makes sense to you guys. Now, this doesn't solve the other coins problem, right? Which is Pyre Phantom. Would you guys agree with me there? But what about Pyre Phantom? Now, Pyre Phantom, there's also an upside to red candles on Pyre Phantom. And this has mostly to do with the way that the witches play the game. Because what we do know is that when Metatrage stops being profitable, you can expect the knights to stop doing it. And this has an advantage to the witches who are playing the witch fault. Because if you're not aware yet, the way that Pyre Phantoms utility works is through something called the incantation. Are you guys aware of this? You guys, let me check to see if there's anybody hands are up because I don't get people to raise their hands enough. Where is the stuff you typically? Oh, typing showing up. Seabiscuit, that is in the big top. Sorry. I apologize for not being clear on that. Yep. So the way that the incantation works is it uses an epoch system that effectively distributes the entirety of a reward to a single staking utility that also puts buy pressure on the coin immediately right before as well. Now, what this does, and by the way, starting off, this total prize pool starts off in pennies. I believe right now it's under a nickel, okay? But it does grow pretty rapidly. It does grow pretty rapidly when the DEX is fully functional. And the advantage of red candles on Pyre Phantom, knights will not be metatraging in the middle of you trying to catch incants and swing trading Pyre Phantom. Because one of the ways that a swing trade can be interrupted on Pyre Phantom is if one of the night coins like 2 ohm, 3 ohm, or Z ohm is meter-charged across in the middle of this candlestick pattern. And honestly, the best way to describe this is I'm going to keep drawing this diagram. Because of the time value and speculativity, the utility value, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, it is at least hypothesized. It is hypothesized that the price action of Pyre Phantom, Pyre BNB, and Pyre AVAX, can I draw that better, please? Okay. It's hypothesized, this diagram right here, those black vertical lines represent the epoch transpiring. And what I mean by that is the epoch starting anew, right? So I want you guys to understand that between those black lines is 6 hours. Do you guys all understand that? Okay. Between those 6 hours, effectively speaking, there's no point in holding this coin. Like Pyre Phantom, Pyre AVAX, and Pyre BNB, this is not a buy hodl dump coin. Like this is a swing trading coin, which effectively is buy hodl dump, but in a much quicker period of time than I think most people are used for. This is a short term swing trading, hold for a little bit and then move on type of coin. It's designed to be this way, and effectively, this is what the pattern should look like if it doesn't get interrupted by anything different. And the things that could interrupt it, one of them is in fact called meterage. I don't think that everybody understands this yet, but this will become a little bit more apparent when beta is open, okay? So when Pyre Phantom is lower than 2 ohm, there's going to be a higher consistency in seeing this shape because you're not going to be as worried about the 2 ohm knighthood meter charging across. And what this does is, in fact, this creates a positive upside to the idea of red candles happening on Pyre Phantom as well. And I wish I could explain more on this, but now I realized how much information is missing. But anyway, I guess I should open this up for questions, or if you guys want to ask me anything else about timeline. There's no delays right now. There's no reason for additional delays. Not that I know of. I've not been told anything from the developers that there would be any more delays. So if you guys were waiting for me to answer that, I have no indication that there would be delays. So yeah, I believe that date is December 7th, which is about 5 days away. Whatever day I said in the announcement. Oh, December 8th? Sorry, 8th. Okay, that makes more sense. Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, I don't see any. I guess I'm waiting for you to type. Do you guys have questions? This is supposed to be an Ask Me Anything. Do you guys want me to talk about something? Yeah, that's correct, Leviathan. you guys have questions? Do you guys want me to explain anything? All of the websites will eventually get an aesthetic overhaul. You should not expect to see that before the 8th, but we might change the so sometime after the 8th, we're going to overhaul the very good, Alessio. Yeah. That is true, Alessio. Yeah, that is most likely the case. Yeah. Because there is no point in holding the coin if you're not catching profits from holding the coin. And you're only going to catch profits at that epoch. So it doesn't make sense to hold it really unless you have some very interesting swing trading strategy going on. Wow, it's exciting. What is the ticker for Pyre Phantom? The ticker for Pyre Phantom is Pyre Phantom. PYREFTM. Yeah. If you don't see it yet, that's done by design. Although I believe some of you have figured out, some of you have with your super sleuth skills figured out other things that are in deployment. Let's see. Have you guys noticed, like, if you go to Spooky Swap right now, if you go to, like, if I go to Deck Screener, so I really did underestimate, like, the liquidity damage on fucking Phantom. And I mean, liquidity damage, like, every single fucking thing is, like, I don't even know how to describe this. Every single fucking coin, like, people aren't doing any work on, like, fixing these like, it blows my mind that like, okay, I'll put it this way: if I was the Phantom Foundation and they supposedly have, like, capital for whatever reason, and I guess they're giving capital to all the projects in the gas monetization system, but, like, I don't understand why, like, the dexes that get gas monetization, like, bonuses aren't deploying certain liquidity pairs. Like, it blows my mind, but again, I don't think they know what they're doing in the first fucking place. Anyway, if you go to, like, Spooky Swap now and you look at, like, 24 hours. Anyway, earlier, I guess. I want to say, let me see where I saw it. Yeah, here we go. This is from a few hours ago. So I'll show you guys this screenshot. This is from a few hours ago. I don't think it's valid anymore. And this was Spooky Swap ranked by 24-hour volume. And you can just see 2 shares, 2 shares, 2 shares, 2 ohm, 3 ohm, 3 shares, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's kind of crazy that they're no longer ranked that high or whatever. I guess so. Some of the volume must have died down. But the point being is there is very, very interesting amounts of volume that get driven for two-share kind of like spontaneously. Like two-share has this kind of meme value to it. So like people are looking for like two-share as this, I don't know how to describe it, like overall health signal of the entire ecosystem. So if like two-share is coming back to life, it's kind of interesting to see because you don't see that same thing happening on 2-ohm, right? But it'll be like two-share goes up 18%, and like 2-ohm, it has a certain amount of volume. Maybe it goes up, I don't know, 5% here. It's I don't know, it's interesting. Yep. Let's see. Do I have a DM? Somebody DMing me. Okay. Do you guys have questions? I did expect you guys to have questions. Two-share is the key. Exactly. Yep. I don't know what that means. Like, that was not handed to me. That was not like discussed with me. I remember like the announcement that two-share was going to be the key to everything, but like I only understood it that that like because two-share was like the older brother, that it was going to become deflationary quicker. And anyway, yeah. I was a blue whale. I was a blue whale in the original server. So like I did hold a significant amount of two-share. I held over 100 at a certain point. I had like 700 grand of two-share at one point. Maybe I will one day again, but probably not from 100. Well, I don't know how that was supposed to like be put together. Like I don't know. Like I'm not even trying to knock the idea. I know that Michael This Risky has entangled himself with other projects like in the last year that may or may not have gone through some drama. Like I'm not unaware of this, but I can't say that to reflect on what the original plan was concerning two-share because it's not to say that like the entirety of everything he ever did was I'm not gonna like speak on this, but the point being is I don't know what that plan was, and I think that two-share has that meme value, right? So that right there is okay to have because if two-share, I noticed earlier, like you can see it, two-share is paired against like Tether there, and two-share is paired against MIM, right? Like they just have random pairs of two-share, and I do believe that you should pair coins against more pairs than the average person in DeFi thinks, but I don't know if I would do that with two-share, if that makes sense. Yeah, Spooky Swap dominance 33%. Yep. DEX versus centralized exchange dominance. What does that mean? Like some DeFi llama? Let's look at that. Okay, if I go to DeFi llama, do you remember when Phantom was like in the top 10 DeFi chains and now you have to scroll down the list to find it? Well, yeah, AUTO. I've been waiting since 2022 myself. Believe it or not, AUTO. I think people in my organization will tell you that PiraSwap was in design as early as July of 2022. So this is now like 18 months from me. And I actually can't believe it. Okay, I actually can't believe that I can't believe it's taken this long, but honestly, it might be good that it has. Well, thank you, Abuelito. Really, I think it is required tenacity here. Yeah. I don't know what the DEX versus centralized exchange dominance means. I would like to know what that means. It says 0.08%. So does that mean like I don't I'm wondering what that means. But anyway, yeah. Abuelito, yeah, everything that I talked about this, developers won. And that's on what? That's on fucking Phantom? What is that? What are you showing me? Is that Phantom? I don't know how they track that. Like, what does that mean? Like, how are they tracking that? So, like, total amount of developers. Okay, I'll tell you this. I do not see it as a problem. Okay? And I'll tell you this, the reason Grow a Grid I don't see it is because I do not look at a chain where other people are building as the opportunity zone. I am kind of like ideologically always focused on look at what nobody else is looking at. Does that make sense? So I personally, and this is like my own flavor, I would rather be building on Phantom when everybody else like doesn't see any hope. Does that make sense? So whether it's my own heroic nature or whatever, I would rather like build on Phantom because the odds are against me now. By the way, this shit works on Phantom because it works on Binance, it works on Avalanche at the same time. Does that make sense? So Binance and Avalanche are top 20 coins, right? Phantom might be down in the 80s or 90s now, but like that has nothing to do with whether or not this works. So, you know what, Grow a Grid? You would be surprised that that Pyre Swap might actually be plenty good at doing that for the rest of Phantom. Yeah. Yeah, like I think you might be surprised at the way that for instance, let me show you this. This is these are liquidity maps, okay? And people love these fucking liquidity maps, right? These are diagrams, and I fucking draw diagrams, right? So we have these fucking diagrams. And I don't know if you've ever seen this before, but the vast majority of DEXs, they just think about themselves as like rows of kiosks. Does that make sense? Like you can swap this here and you can swap that here, and they don't think about adding a second column of liquidity. They are a single column of hundreds of rows. They don't think about turning liquidity into kind of a matrix, turning liquidity into a grid, turning liquidity into a map, making liquidity relationships a little bit more complicated, 100% more complicated. And because of this, there are opportunity zones that are kind of inside the DEX. Does that make sense? Because let's look at just these fucking, let's look at this one. So if I zoom in here, so I'll zoom in here. Okay, wow, look at that. All right. All right, so I'm going to first paste this image here. Okay, so do you guys see this gigantic image? All right. Now I'm going to say, like right here, I'm going to, I should have definitely like, so I'm going to circle them. This one, and this one. Okay. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to post this image down here. Okay, so do you guys see the liquidity pairs that I circled in red right here? Right. So if anybody else was running a DEX, they would focus completely on the benefit of these pairs, and all they're literally doing is just like lining up more piglets to drink from Phantom, but not actually providing anything behind them. Does that make sense? Like, there's no reason to go through those liquidity pairs for anything. Does that make sense to you guys? Like, there isn't any advantage to that coin being in liquidity for any other coin, right? It's just for itself. So, like, that coin doesn't serve a job for other coins. Does that make sense? Whereas over here, again, I'll change the color of the the marker I'm using here. Let's use like a purple, I guess. This one in purple, this one in purple, this one in purple, this one. And now we have 6 of these. Now we have six of them circled in fucking purple, right? Do you guys see this right here? Okay. So these 6 purple ones, you know what, Maddie? That is literally pretty smart to do, and that's almost like that is probably like the best kind of passive all-around plan to do. So you're smart to figure that out, and that is why I drew these maps, by the way. That's why I drew these maps. So I want you guys to notice that the 6 of these other LPs, they outnumber the ones that are just the 4, like the 4 major LPs. Does that make sense? The 4 major LPs, which would be like any Walmart DEX, would just focus on the red circled ones. But PyroSwap, and I mean the GPSE, has these coins, which, by the way, which target each other's prices, and they have utility value based on their comparison to each other. Does that make sense? Like, so these other 6 pairs, they're not pointless. Like, those have something else going on there. And the thing is because these coins don't have Phantom in them, you have to kind of go into the DEX. Does that make sense? Like, you have to be inside the ecosystem now. Does that make sense? You're not just trading on Phantom, you're trading inside PyroSwap. Does that make sense? And granted, a lot of these coins are on Spooky, they're on Redemption. I think some of them are on Spirit Swap. Does that make sense? But the point of it is that even if this entire liquidity map is deployed over there on Spooky or deployed on Sushi Swap or whatever, you're still kind of inside when you trade these pairs. You're trading like a small microcosm of activity. Does that make sense? Because these coins are going to go up and down in comparison to each other. They're going to be like I want you to think of like the respiratory system, right? Like the lungs inhale and they collapse, right? They breathe and they collapse. And I want you to think about it's more, there's more pieces moving around the inside, and these pieces moving around on the inside are kind of new opportunities. Does that make sense? And the point of it being is that they end up scaling the whole DEX. They end up kind of letting the DEX leverage itself. And that's a bit more of a complicated idea, but I will definitely be explaining more about how the DEX leverages itself by having more columns of liquidity, by kind of having you can think of it as like liquidity reservoirs, right? Like underground liquidity reservoirs. This is perhaps the best way to think of it. But these LPs do serve a point, and they do actually get transaction volume. Right now, they don't get transaction volume, right? Like, you don't see them getting transaction volume because we're not in open beta, right? But the point being is that these things still inside the ecocosm, inside like the ecosystem within PyroSwap, this whole thing drives transaction volume on Phantom. So I don't need to like build my project next to other people's projects. Does that make sense? Like, I don't need Spooky Swap to have their shit together. I don't need Beethoven X to have their shit together. I don't need Geist. I don't need Tarot to have their shit together. Does that make sense? Like, so I'm not too worried about other devs on Phantom. Like, that's just, yeah, I will totally do this by myself. And to be honest, it'll only help us. Like, the fact of the matter is that I look at this stuff still every day. Like, I still look at this every day, and the closer we get to beta, the more and more I think, fuck, did I overlook something? Fuck. You know, could something go wrong? And the thing is, I keep seeing more and more problems that this actually solves on Phantom and in DeFi. So I want you to know that, like, this is like the final hour, right? And no, like, even if we have something fucking go wrong, it's like we'll just be able to fix that. Yeah, like, even if something goes wrong, we'll just be able to fix it. It's I think a lot of the investors, because they want to see this work, they're also kind of willing to assist us. And by the way, that only really applies to, like, deploying some liquidity when we get to open beta. So it can even be like a few $100s of liquidity, but, like, we'll talk more about that in open beta. But I want to say that based on the math, this DEX needs about 30,000 to 60,000 TVL to kind of be at full functionality, and that it can achieve that pretty. It can achieve that faster than people realize. Yeah, that's basically the best thing I would say there. It can achieve it faster than people realize. Yeah, okay. Do you guys have other questions? I don't know what else to talk about. Oh yeah, and by the way, like, so back to this. Do I think of this? I am at this viewpoint where I think 99% of devs in DeFi have no fucking idea what they are doing, and they are just copying off each other. And I will, for instance, in order to build PyreSwap, we copied a little bit off of SushiSwap. We copied a bit off of Uniswap. We copied a bit off of SpookySwap. We also copied a bit off of ToonForks. But we didn't just copy off of it off like this guess. Like, I did all the math to see what was working and what was not working, what was solving the problem and what was not solving the problem. And yeah, I've done it again and again and again, and I know the entire bones of this. And US Dibs will not be like new. US Dibs does not need a migration. We have control of that one. But yeah, okay. Yeah, during open beta, you will likely see pegs updated before open beta. Two, you will see Ribs money deployed near. I would say you will see first, 2-ohm, 3-ohm, Z-ohm, Frozen Tomb, Snow Tomb, Dibs, then Ribs, then AFO, then Hoggy. This is the so the first will be those 6, then that order. US Dibs, yeah. US Dibs does not need redeployment. The ones that need redeployment are Hoggy and AFO. Yes, exactly, Chatman. Yeah, there's no reason to change those at all. Yeah, so Frozen Tomb and Snow Tomb are good. Ribs might actually have a Genesis event. So yeah, so Ribs 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 has no peg coin to start with, right? And its share coin is US Dibs, right? So what we might do is we might give Ribs a Genesis event. So that'll be useful because we can drive a lot of liquidity onto the Binance side, and it'll probably be like 2 months of liquid. I don't know. It'll probably be like a 2-month long Genesis for Ribs, and that's just to like, I don't know. It'll help drive. It'll be like a pre-farm for the fucking farm, like for that DEX, and it'll be useful for the Binance side because the Binance side starts off with the least going on it, right? Phantom already has 3. Frozen Tomb and Snow Tomb have 2. Yeah. Frozen Tomb and Snow Tomb likely. I would estimate that they will reach peg first because the liquidity is the smallest. But Chatman, at the same time, there's just so many people that are like diehard 2-share zealots, right? So it's hard to say which one will actually hit peg first. But the way that I look at it, Frozen Tomb and Snow Tomb, right? 2-share is the key, right? Frozen Tomb and Snow Tomb, right? The more of the boardroom is consolidated. So I would say that there's going to be less people in Frozen Tomb and Snow Tomb that have no idea what's going on. Does that make sense? So in 2-ohm, 3-ohm, and Z-ohm, there's going to be a whole bunch of people just trading the noise. Does that make sense? Yes, it did, Alessio. Well, yep, we saw that. 0.50. Yep, we definitely noticed it. And Z-ohm did, but the thing is, Alessio, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that's what it will. I don't know if I can even look. Yeah, I don't even know if I can look at like the situation as it is now and assume which one will get closer to peg first. Because once you have Metatrage as a utility, I think that people will change the way they look at this. Like I think a few people, all it takes is them to figure out how the new game works, and they might not be interested in getting to peg quicker because they can make quicker money with the one that's the lowest price. So as soon as you shift the paradigm, as soon as Metatrage is a real thing, people might not give a fuck about getting Z on the peg. Like they'll be like, oh, I can actually just make more money with 3-ohm right now, so I'm just gonna go focus on that one. They might just go chase the laser pointer, right? So if you guys are familiar with that. But yeah, no, so Frozen Tomb and Snow Tomb, lower levels of liquidity, and they also don't have like 7,000 people in there who are just like have no idea what's going on. So Frozen Tomb and Snow Tomb have an advantage that pretty much everybody in the server knows exactly the plan. Like, yeah, pretty much everybody in the server is watching intently, whereas with 2-ohm, 3-ohm, and Z-ohm, it's like every day you have somebody in there, they're like, what's going on? What do I do with this? I haven't been paying attention to this for 18 months. What is this? Why is 2-share going to the moon? Right? We don't have that problem in Frozen. So believe it or not, idiot money might not be the advantage. Like idiot money might not be the advantage, and that's also why we don't need to market this. We do not need to market this launch. Like people will figure out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Girl, it's not like it's not that I don't have. They're all daddy's children. Okay, I don't have a favorite. All right, I don't have a favorite. They're all good coins to me. Okay, they're all good coins. But because Frozen Tomb and Snow Tomb, again, though 2-ohm and 3-ohm, right, had reached levels of printing. Yeah, 2-ohm and 3-ohm. They're millions and millions and millions of coins just fucking shot out across the DeFi, right? So that takes longer to repair that problem. However, they do have more investors, right? So everybody has pros and cons. A lot. I know, Alessio, that was my fault, actually. The Z-ohm thing is my fault. But that's also why we changed the peg, because it just seems... the fact that it printed in the first place was kind of a fluke. And, yeah. By the way, it's only 54K in buy pressure. to repeg 2 ohm. So, for example, let me show you something. And if I go to Deck Screener right now and I click 2 share, yeah, it much honestly. Yeah, it isn't much. Oh, you know what's crazy about that? Here, look at this on Spooky Swap. So you see 24-hour volume here. It's 15 grand. Honestly, yeah. You know what? It's 20. Yeah, I'm not going to speak on that. But 15 grand, yeah. So 15 grand of like fuck around money has the open spot on their schedule to speculatively swing trade 2 share right now in a single day. Does that make sense? So if you can do this is, by the way, this is just one of the pairs of 2 shares. Does that make sense? And the total liquidity is 43,000. So this pair of 43,000 had 15,000 in trading volume in a single day. And again, it's only 56 grand to repeg, or 54 grand or whatever to repeg 2 ohm in a single buy, by the way, which is not like, that's not how it's going to happen. But if you understand that, oh, hey, like, is that money around? It's like, yeah, that money is around actually. And granted, the reason that's doable is because a lot of it got burned during the redemption fiasco, right? So when redemption fucking got that flash loan attack, a lot of it did get burned. But in theory, a single 50 grand buy could repeg it. But we don't need a 50 grand buy. But what I do mean to tell you is that there is enough fuck around money on Phantom that, effectively speaking, if they start seeing a trend of behavior that causes a accumulation of bullishness, the capital is there to repeg it. That's basically all I'm trying to tell you guys. Although that doesn't need to be how it happens at all, though, either. I want you guys to know, for real, you'll see it. You'll see like less than 20 people actually do the real thing that matters to get these things to peg. And yeah, more on that later. Yeah, I'm not going to comment on that one either. So yeah, I'm gonna go back to this answering Grow a Grid's thing. Do I have a problem that like devs aren't like building here? It's like no. I honestly expect that once people see PyreSwap actually achieve its goal, suddenly other devs will be like, yeah, okay, time to build on Phantom now. Like, it's the largest risk or the hardest risk to be like, oh, to be like, it's a bigger risk to be like a leader and like, how do I describe this? To be the one taking a chance, but I would not have literally the only thing PyreSwap needs from other people to work. Arbitrage bots need to continue zooming around the clock to the blockchains we are building on need to keep processing blocks. That's it. Like that's the only thing that we need to like count on from other people. So arbitrage bots zooming around. Would everybody agree that arbitrage bots are always doing that, like no matter what? Okay, yeah, the answer is yes, because that's why prices have parity. And then the blockchains, are they continuing to, push blocks into the future, as it were, or should I say, fossilize blocks into the past, validate blocks? Are they continuing to validate blocks? If these two things are happening, we're good. That's literally all we need to happen. Exactly, Chatman. And you'll see something else, Chatman. Yeah, exactly, because the bots effectively, when they jump through, they have to leave fees at every single pool as well. So you're actually able to you're kind of able to like fish for bots, like with a fishing net. Does that make sense? Because by the way, bots don't always make money either. A lot of people don't realize that. But bots, if they end up crashing into each other, they will end up in a certain precarious scenario. Like, okay, so you don't actually need Taro's permission to deploy lending pairs on Taro. But because of the whole red candles are good aspect, it would be dumb to not have the Pyre swap pairs on Taro. At least on the Phantom side. AVAX can do Imprimax, and B can do Thena. Is it Thena? Who the fuck is it over there on Binance that is this? Okay, I don't remember which one is. Let me look at DeFi Llama. Oh, Venus. Okay, Venus. My bad. I would assume pretty high, Alessio. Actually, yeah. But the good news is that like anything that they can target is going to be low money in the first place. Does that make sense? So the LP and the swap is from Sushi. So like this has been battle tested. If there is an exploit, it will be in the MED TU or in the IWV. And yeah, since the project is in beta, the amount of money in the MED TU or the IWV is tiny. So you have to remember that like sometimes you get exploited and it's like literally just somebody trying stuff. Like it'll be like a hacker and they're just kind of like poking around and they're just trying to see if that works. Like that's just the way they think. Like they're not even maliciously exploiting it. Like, oh shit, I broke this because I was just testing it. However, 95% of cyber attacks are financially motivated. Okay, that is data according to Verizon. So Verizon does this report called the Data Breach Investigations Report. Anyway, 95% of cyber attacks are financially motivated. In DeFi, why not even higher, right? So the point being is any of our components that are perhaps exploitable, there's not going to be that much money in them in the beginning. Does that make sense? So like even if they are exploitable, like it might not make sense to the hacker to poke around. I will probably during beta ask people to see if they can find a fucking exploit. So yeah. But again, Yeah, again, Alessio, like, other than just like LP, one, you don't even have to use Pyre Swap, right? You can just fucking use Spooky Swap if you want. But granted, Spooky Swap got exploited in their front end, right? Yeah, I don't know anything about that, but I would not expect that I have zero enemies. Let's put it that way. I would not expect that I have zero enemies, and I'm also confident in my ability to bounce back from exploits. So I'm not gonna like lose sleep over it. Oh, you know what's crazy is like they can do that starting off on Epoch 1, by the way. So like starting off. There is 60,000 to them available to me. This is a super high number. This is so high, right? It's so high, you cannot possibly meet all that without causing a gigantic red candle and losing your own money. Okay? So, like, first off, this number doesn't pile up like 2 bond. It has to go all the way to 0 before it gets refilled. So the first time you see meeting, that will be like possibly the highest number you ever see in meeting. Does that make sense? 60,000 to them available to me, because by the time that goes away, the time it refills will be a smaller amount. It'll be like 55,000 or whatever, right? So it has to go all the way to 0 before it gets refilled. So the point being is this is a super high number. So like it's so high. Yeah, exactly. It is 1% of 2 ohms total supply. So as it slowly deletes 2 ohms total supply, 2 ohms total supply becomes smaller, and then the next time it refills, it'll be a smaller number. Does that make sense? So it'll be like 59, I don't know, 55, I don't fucking know what it was, 54,000, something like that, right? 54,000. Does that make sense? So because you're taking 6,000 away, you guys get it. Okay. Now, the point being is that we are not going to have the deepest of liquidity during phase 1. So someone absolutely could meet over 10,000 to them and then attempt to meter-trage it, but they will end up losing a shit ton of money. They will, if somebody wanted to, they could in fact like just fucking move 10,000 over and have to meter-trage it. But they will lose so much money doing this that we're kind of okay with taking this risk. And the reason being is because red candles aren't bad. Like starting over from the top, red candles are not always bad to the right situation. So if somebody wants to take 10,000 to them over and just like crush Pyre Phantom, by the way, Pyre Phantom is also divided among like more liquidity pairs for the point of arbitrage, etc. Because this way also every people who sell too much at once, they get arbitrage. People who buy too much at once, they also get arbitrage. Does that make sense? Which isn't a bad thing, but the whole goal is to get people to play the game with smaller amounts of cash. Does that make sense? So during beta, everybody will be like recommended, like learn to do this with $5 or less. Learn to do this with $5 or less. Now, could somebody take 10,000 to them, which is that's a lot of money. It's like what, $300? I'm thinking of like the average person. Dex screener. Yeah. So like, let's see. What is 2 ohm? If 2 ohm is 3 pennies, and 1,000 of them would be okay. So if it's 3 pennies, and that would be, I guess, yeah, 100 of them would be $3, and then another 100 would be, yeah. So 10 grand, they could do $300, right? And they could in fact move that over. When you say it's only $300 to move 10,000, it's not much, because now that's like 60,000. 60,000 2 ohm is only like $1,800 a 2 ohm to meter across. Maybe this is not. Yeah, maybe this is not as bad as I thought. Anyway, okay, so let's say Pyre Phantom gets crushed from 0.15 TWAP to 0.01 TWAP, right? Let's say somebody just like they spaz the fuck out when they do this. The good news to this is, from the Knight's perspective, Pyre Phantom will double in 11 days, quadruple in 22 days, and octuple in 33 days. Does that make sense? So this will still come back if nothing happens. If nothing happens, this will still come back to like 0.8 in a month. And then from there, it'll be like another 11 days until it's all the way back. So in theory, 44 days, if nothing happens other than just this one thing happens and then everybody just goes to sleep, 44 days, and eventually that damage is undone. So somebody could do 44 days of damage with $300 in theory. However, it's not that simple, okay? Because the fact of the matter is Pyre Phantom has its own thing going on the witch side. So the fact that a red candle happened to it is not a bad thing, because if you are trying to play the IWV, you want metertrage to not happen while you're in position. So if somebody crushes the fuck out of the price, you know it's probably not going to happen again. So what this does allow is this allows for a lot of potential transaction volume to happen for Pyre Phantom, which ends up kind of leveraging the entire dex and making the incantation get bigger. And as the incantation gets bigger, it puts net buying pressure on Pyre Phantom. So Pyre Phantom can, in fact, jump back a lot faster than 44 days in this scenario. Does that make sense to you guys? So, like, if nothing happens, it would take 44 days, because it would be like octupling in 33 days and then doubling in 11, right? So that's like how you're going to look at it. So it would take 44 days to 16x, right? So if you go from 0.01 to 0.015, that would take 44 days in theory. But there's other stuff going on, because, again, going back to this, there's a reason all of these things have their own different liquidity maps. So just because, like, oh shit, now we can't metertrage profitably anymore, it's like, well, that doesn't mean there's nothing left to do. Because if you want to take that moment right then to practice getting good at the witch vault, which, again, you should be doing this with $5 or less. If you do it with too much money, you will end up losing money. This ecosystem does not reward greedy marmoset behavior. You are better to learn it using small amounts of money. I'm serious. You should learn it using small amounts of money and pace yourself. As you guys can see, like, Pyre Phantom has its own stuff going on, right? And I don't know if you can see that, but I'm just trying to explain this to you. Pyre Phantom over here, it does have that relationship with this right here. Let me change this. So right here, these relationships in the red arrows. So even if the even if the relationships in the red arrows are ruined from someone metatraging too much, the purple arrow relationship benefits from this. And what this does is it allows Pyre Phantom more growing room to recover from what just happened. And to be honest, by the way, because we're going to have like not that much liquidity, I don't expect somebody to just want to throw away money to try to like hinder the project. Like somebody might want to do that, but at a certain point, I don't think they would want to do it this way. Does that make sense? Because the project still recovers either way. Like if you think about 44 days, think about how long people have waited for beta. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, oh, even if we have to wait 44 days for it to recover from that, that is still probably nothing compared to like understanding that it does actually recover. Because being able to watch it recover over the next 44 days will kind of help inspire and ignite some of that bullishness to come back in the first place. So like I've thought about all these scenarios, but to be honest, like yeah, the red candle is not a death sentence like in any capacity it is. So no matter when a red candle happens, like it's just not a death sentence. That's the whole goal. Like make red candles good. Now it doesn't just because a red candle isn't good for you doesn't mean it's not good for somebody else. So we also need to consider that this ecosystem is meant to have like a higher diversity of roles and actors, right? So even if you remember in Tomb Forks, some people only played the farms and other people only played the boardrooms. Does that make sense? And there was still this kind of possibility of they both kind of served each other, but some of them did a little bit of both. And well, yeah, I don't think I need to explain that any more than I already have. Anyway, I hope that answers your question. And I know you can't see what I'm showing you yet. Like I know you guys can't see it. So I would say like wait for open beta and I'll be able to show it to you on the interface. I'll be able to show you exactly what I'm referring to and where these scenarios happen. Alessio, so that's a good question. I would say that it depends on actually. I would say that depends on like whether or not. I would say that depends on whether or not the knights try to race Pyre Phantom the peg by buying it, or where do they metatrage? Does that make sense? So if you like, I'll tell you this: with Snow Tomb and Frozen Tomb, I would expect that liquidity will contract all the way up. But with 2-ohm, 3-ohm, and Z-ohm, I think at a certain point, people are going to start noticing that that this thing is when as it goes up, it's continuing to fight and go up, and they're going to notice that like the system is fighting perpetually to climb. And when they see that, they're going to effectively acquiesce to getting a position. And when they do that, they might end up just buying it up higher than Pyre Phantom versus maybe like Pyre AVAX. Does that make sense? But the good news is that liquidity will deepen from other mechanisms as well. So from the prints, like the prints don't. I think to get liquidity where people want it to be, we'll need to get to phase 2. And phase 2 is a long way away from now. So we don't need to worry about phase 2 too much. But I would say that liquidity will, at least for 2-ohm, 3-ohm, and Z-ohm, be plenty, like, I think it'll be plenty useful on the way up. I think once people see the TWAPs crossing 0.3, a lot of people will change the way they think about this solution. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, 100%. And Alessio, it's smart for them to do that. It's smart. Once 2 ohm, 3 ohm, and Z ohm are at TWAP parity, it makes sense to deploy braided LP right then and there. No need to wait until prints, because even on the climb up, a lot of people are going to be exiting. There is going to be battleground happening here, and this is okay. This is okay, and and the thing is, your peg coin positions will do better on the climb up from getting swap fees from these intermittent red candles. So if you pair them both at 0.20 and they climb in parallel to 0.80, this is more money than if you just held them illiquid and they climb the same amount. And of course, there is no impermanent loss in that scenario. Have you guys seen that before? Hang on, let me show you guys that. Here, I'm going to show you guys that so you can see it. Okay, so let's look at 2 ohm right now, right? Let me look at Dex Screener. Okay, so let's say impermanent loss scenario. 2 ohm at 0.003 to 3 ohm at 0.003. Present, and then what is it? Future. 2 ohm at 0.30, and then what is it? 3 ohm at 0.03. Okay, you guys see this right here? Let's look at this right here. So you guys see, it says Permanent loss, 0%. Okay, what this calculator is missing. Yep, and all IL calculators ignore this for whatever reason. Yeah, is the accumulation of the underlying via swap fees. Right, so you would effectively gain the same amount, but if they get reset with red candles, but they still end up at the same place, you're actually going to make more money than if you just held them both liquid. It's an illiquid if you held them both illiquid. How does that make sense? Well, Alessio, most people do not know how this works at all. Like this is a complete mystery to them. Like, so they hear the word impermanent loss, and it just sounds complicated and confusing and sounds scary. So they don't even waste the time in learning to understand that. They just start avoiding liquidity. I'm not going to keep talking about that forever because it pisses me off. But in Pyre Swap, we're going to try to change the way that people understand liquidity. Well, yeah, it'll be you will I guess you guys will have to just wait and see what's in store. Anyways, do you guys have other questions? Because I don't know what else to answer. Let me see. Was there other questions written here? What music are you listening to at the moment? Okay, let me see. A bunch of people I didn't answer here. Okay. Will there be any farming or auto counting in Pyre Swap MTO? Not during phase one. Not during phase one. Yeah, hang on. The big top. Okay. Does it matter if I build all LPs at the same time? Okay, or push one, then second, then third. Okay, Maddie, I would answer this question. Yeah. Is Maddie still here? In the big top? Let's see. Maddie, ideally, you would want to deploy them, and withdraw them when they are near parity. However, you can see them when they are far from parity. So let's say you wanted to deploy like $1,000 of 2 ohm Phantom LP. Well, 2 ohm is down here at 0.10 TWAP. So it might make more sense to deploy $50 of 2 ohm Phantom LP at first, and then wait until they get closer before deepening it. Because you will actually experience impermanent loss from the price divergence of these things getting fixed. Does that make sense? However, this is not a real loss on the climb up. This is actually just a reduction in gain. Like impermanent loss on the way up is not a loss. It's just like a different type of. It's like it can be a reduced gain. I could go into that forever, but I would say if you're cool with it, I would say deploy a smaller amount at first, and then as they get closer in parity, deepen it over time. Yeah, like that's so. Like right now, I have a shit ton of small. Okay, yeah. So right now, I have a shit ton of small $20 LPs all over Pyre Swap data. Yeah, they're just there to be $20 LPs. Yep. I was being honest with you there. Yeah, so I have a shit. I think I have like 45 or 50 different $20 LPs, but they're just there to kind of like start off those ratios. Okay, let me see what are these other questions we have here. Okay. Does it matter? Yeah. Okay. Who provides liquidity at the beginning? Oh, who takes the loss on Pyre Phantom? Oh, what loss do you mean? What's the best strategy with Terra Vaults? Seeded 27. That will probably not be a good strategy until they get to 0.8 in the first place. So I would say Tarot Vaults aren't really going to apply until we get way closer to peg. But then when you get closer to peg, the strategy on Tarot Vaults will be based on what direction you think the price is going to swing. So I would say right now, we're not going to worry about, at least us, like, there is nothing stopping you from going out and deploying your own Tarot Vault, by the way. But we as a circus are not going to do it until, at least until 0.8, 0.9, 1.0, right? So I would say we can talk about that later. Who takes the loss on Pyre Phantom? Well, believe it or not, there is no loss. Yeah, the decay, Juicy Jewels, is not a loss. Yeah, that doesn't actually cost you any money. Yeah, so Alessio, do you remember a long time ago, like a year ago, where basically you calculated the decay and you're like, oh, actually, you don't lose money either way? Well, anyway, so Juicy Jewels, because of the decay, they think this is a loss. But actually, in TradFi language, this is called a reverse stock split. And all it means is that your coins are fusing together. This is not actually cost you money. Yeah, Harleen. I remember it exactly. Because, Alessio, I'm so rarely wrong that whenever somebody proves me wrong, it's just etched on my memory forever. So I'll never forget it. Because I'm just not wrong enough. Does that make sense? Okay. Tarot right now? You can if you want. Like, if you were going to do tarot right now, you could do a leveraged long. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could do that. Yeah, knock around. Yeah, knock yourself out. You can do a leveraged long. Yeah, 100%. Oh, and by the way, when it crosses peg, you should probably do a short, like a short through tarot. That would be a good trade. Yeah, like that's totally fine. That is 100% fine to do. Okay, let me see what else we had here. Yep. And okay, let me go back to the chat. So Juicy Jewels, first off, I'm going to be deploying a bunch of liquidity to start off with. So with Pyre Phantom or Pyre, so a bunch of liquidity to start off with. And to be honest, that liquidity is will end up in the farms as well. But additionally, like it is not like the loss you think it is. Like, honestly, as far as like a liquidity pool that even with decay would just completely break even. Like the reason you think it's okay, the reason it feels like it's a loss is because people do not want to hold Pyre Phantom. And this is fine because Pyre Phantom is meant to be a swing trading coin, right? But as far as like the decay, that's not really a loss. Like, it's not like we're actually just fusing the same amount of capital into like less coins. But this is not actually losing money. Like, really, we're making the other coins worth something. So the fact of the matter is that people can metertrage too, and it's from them taking small exposures to Pyre Phantom that they're actually able to make more profit on the way up. And this is also okay because Pyre Phantom has its own shit going on its other side, which I've talked about again. I'll explain more about that in open beta. Probably not even in the first week of open beta, maybe the second week of open beta. But anyway, yeah. So it might seem like that would logically feel like a loss, but it is only a loss. It is only, you know what? Yeah, that is actually just a more complicated answer than that. I know it seems like a loss, but the decay itself does not cause a loss. What kind of can cause a loss is the notion that people are so panicky to fucking get rid of it that you're just going to see more red candles than green ones. But the fact of the matter is that there has to be there is always going to be like net buy pressure on Pyre Phantom because of the fact that so few people want to hold it. It is actually really easy to kind of expect it to climb green after that 6 hours. An epoch will be 6 hours. That will be something that has to get discussed more later. And let's see. 5 what music you're listening to at the moment. Damn, I don't even know. Yeah, like not enough. Not like I used. Who cares? Christmas theme music, yeah. Just Mariah Carey. Yeah, it was all Mariah Carey Spotify. Yeah, exactly. It was just the Mariah Carey Christmas album. Oh yeah, no, let's go. Fully functional first day of beta. Yeah, fully functional, and I would say that you guys are just here. I'll give you a screenshot. You want to see a screenshot of how it looks right now? Here, we'll do a little sneaky peek. Since you guys waited all this time. Yeah, exactly. Let's go play at your own risk. Oh, by the way, we will have this statement called NFB. NFB means not for beginners. So, like, we are 100% about that fucking policy. Like, I don't feel like I do not expect that this is going to be something that like a total newcomer is going to have a good grasp on. Anyway, here this is how this thing looks. Here we'll show you the incantation witch vault, and this is an example of how PyroSolve looks right now. So here you guys can see this. Yeah, hilarious. Well, not for beginners. Okay, so I don't know if you noticed this, Alessio, but there's this gigantic orange label there. It says danger. This is a witch vault. Read documentation fully before interacting. Do you guys see that gigantic orange warning label? Yeah. Believe it or not, Frankie, they didn't. They didn't even have that. That's why we put it there. And the thing is, this is not while the interface is built around the boardroom, the boardrooms were not nearly as vicious. Yeah. The boardrooms were not nearly as vicious as a witch vault. Here, let me give you an example. Here, I will show you the example of why a witch vault is more vicious than a boardroom. So let me show you, where the fuck is it? Uh-oh. Okay, hang on. Oh, here we go. Okay, so this is incantation witch vault example sequence, okay? So this right here, the difference between a Tomb Fork boardroom and IWV is that you can just throw your fucking share coin in the boardroom and come back, and come back in 2 years, right? Does that make sense? Some people are literally doing that. In fact, I want to say that I've had my share coin in possibly two share. I want to say 2 share. I've had it there since like April of 2022. I never took it out. Anyway, but in a fucking incantation witch vault, you cannot spend more. Like, you don't want to spend more than a few minutes in there, to be honest. You want to effectively want to buy just a small amount so that you can get like a good ROI, like a good APR, and then as soon as you get that reward, you know what? Like they got hit into a coma. I don't know. I'm not going to speak on that. But in an incantation witch vault, it is much more like dangerous. So if you're if you're in an IWV and 10 people stake in behind you, they each smolder you 0.1% of your position. So if you stake in 100 Fire Phantom and then 10 people stake in behind you, it's basically, let's see, 100 times point, I think it's like 9. It's like 9, yeah, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No, it's more than that. Oh no, it is that. It's exactly that amount. So you now have, you now only have 99. I guess 0.044 Fire Phantom that you started with. Now, hopefully, the incants you receive out earn those losses. So you're basically thinking you have to play this. This is like a higher